This is the Committee on Ways and Means. This is Monday, November 16th, 2015. We're at 6 p.m. Councilor Del Sola.
Here.
Councilor Hanlon. Here. Councilor Napolitano. Here. And I have Councilor DeFranco.
Yeah.
We have 4 members present. We do have a quorum. All right. Item number 2 on the agenda, this order up by Council Frank Capone as president to transfer the amount of $450,000 from the following accounts to each of the following capital improvement plans. This request ties into the amended CIP adopted by the City Council on April 13, 2015. From the police department to pocket enforcement vehicles, $120,000. From the police department to the smart meters, $75,000. From the cemetery department to design services, $200,000. From the Department of DPW to ADA accessibility, $50,000.
Favorable action on the order.
Could we have someone from Community Development up?
So you state your name.
Yes. Good evening, Tony Souza, Director of Planning and Development. Thank you.
Councilor Napolitano?
Through the chair, good evening, Mr. Souza.
Good evening.
Just want to get a few things. I'm assuming that the vehicles and the parking meters are coming through the state list?
Councilor, I do apologize. I was here tonight. I can only speak on the item that's within my department. That's the cemetery design services, so I'm sorry.
Let me shift that then.
Thank you.
What exactly is being done at the cemetery?
Sure.
For $200,000?
Thank you. So basically it's $200,000. We're seeing $200,000 for design services. There's actually a scope of work, more so than just landscaping, but also trying to improve the wayfinding, improve the roadway network in there, but also find opportunities wherever we can to increase plots as well. And also, we do have the historic canon in there, which I understand there's separate grant funding, but also working closely with our veterans agent and potentially a design team to find ways to how to preserve, restore, for example, the gazebos that are there and all other public monuments in the cemetery. The money is for design services, and the idea is to advance design for that, with ultimately coming for construction work at the cemetery for enhancements.
Okay. And has that already gone out to bid?
Yes, it has gone out to bid.
How much was the awarded bid?
So the awarded bid was approximately about $170,000.
And the remaining $30,000 is going to be used for what?
The remaining $30,000, I have no intention for. The awarding bid was approximately $179,000. So the remaining funding, I would just utilize the funding that complied with the actual bid award, so I have no intention of utilizing that extra funding.
So we could actually amend that to $180,000, and that still gives you a little, just to round it up?
If you wish to do so, yes.
And what is the ADA accessibility? What is that, 50,000?
That is another item. Unfortunately, I can't speak to that. It's relative to Department of Public Works. I can only speak to the cemeteries. I apologize. Correct.
Okay. All right. And I have no further questions.
Sure.
For Mr. Souza, from purchasing?
Your city auditor.
City auditor, okay. I do have some questions for the city auditor, but in case anybody else has questions for Mr. Souza, I'm done.
Okay. Councilor Hanlon had a couple of questions?
Yes. Regarding the, excuse me to you, sir, regarding the cemetery design.
Yes.
I've always heard that we're going to be taking out so many streets out and making room for more lots. When we do this, is there still going to be like a walkway instead of a street, maybe a pathway Because I've known that, the way we have cemeteries set up is there's one lot this way, one lot this way, but there's pathway on each side. I mean, it's just not going to be 4 deep or anything like that, is it? There's still going to be room to get through?
Yes, so part of the work is to look at opportunities wherever possible, to increase space in the cemetery. And the design team would be very sensitive. This is a team that has done this numerous times in cemeteries in the area in Greater Boston. They would be very careful to ensure that we maintain a pathway to get to all of the sites in the cemetery, that all the sites are easily accessible, that there's a wayfinding system, improvements to the signage in the cemetery as well. So to answer your question, they would be very sensitive to ensure that there's access to all parts of the cemetery, even should they remove a roadway, that it actually makes sense. Remember, it's not only just removing a roadway, but also taking context of the trees too, and how to preserve the trees. There's one that sticks out in my mind where there's beautiful mature trees, and we need to be sensitive about certainly the age of the trees and also proximity to the other grave sites. So there's a logistical part of it that the firm that is to be hired, should we get this funding teed up, it would be very sensitive, and they have expertise in this domain. So.
The other question I had on that is the water system that's there now.
Yes.
Will it disrupt that at all? Because I know there's so many spots you can get a can of water to water your own flowers or whatever you're going to put on your own lots,
So as needed the work would be, or the plans itself would be, where needed, as needed, to upgrade them, where those spigots are located. And if need be to add additional, they would factor that in. Again, looking at some of the historic elements we have in the cemetery, the gazebos that are there, find ways to preserve them if we can. Some of them have aged and should need some tender work done on them, but the team would have a very careful eye on all features and all aspects of the cemetery.
And the other thing is all the roads will have 2-car widths, 2 cars side by side.
Wherever possible, and I would defer to the design team as what would be appropriate. Because again, given the age, as we know, the age of the cemetery and the proximity of, again, location of the plots as well, you have to be sensitive about the logistics of that. So.
Might be a peculiar thing to say, but I'm thinking of gridlock in the cemetery. If we start
I
to
understand.
squeeze things together, we don't have many routes to get in and out. Will there be a problem? Come 2 funerals going in at the same time and people trying to get through. Just want to make sure we have a
Yes.
double wide area there.
Your points are very well taken, and part within the scope of work, and if I made several tasks they'll be looking at, but they will be looking at the existing research of all our public memorial assessment for the site, evaluating burial options, doing a full site survey, knowing where all the areas exist, how that's laid out. But what I want to get to most importantly is public engagement outreach plan as well. So having a series of public meetings and discussions with counselors and residents and those that, some funeral home directors and so on, having conversation with them too.
Okay.
Thank you.
May I, from the chair, if no one else has any questions?
No problem.
Do you know what the budget you're looking at to do this, what you're looking at the budget to do this kind of work? Are you going to wait for the planner to come in and tell you, what you want to do is cost
Yes.
$1.5 million, or?
Sure.
Do you have a budget in your mind what you want to spend?
So I don't have a budget in my mind right now for the cemetery. We have the design services coming in, and one of the tasks is to provide construction cost estimates, ideally prior to us working on the CIP for the upcoming year, to have some tangible numbers. Likewise, with that being said, as part of their process, should we move forward with the funding for this, they'll look at different alternative concepts, and I'm sure there'll be various degrees of cost associated with adding, removing, or whatnot. And so in the coming months, there would be a number that we could potentially plug in for this council's consideration in the CIP or any other source of funding that would be appropriate. So, and again, to answer your question, I don't have a hard number, but that's why we're doing this planning exercise to give us some good numbers for construction.
What about the areas where the veterans are? If we expanded the veterans, the gazebo and fixed that, could we get a grant for doing certain work with, for the veterans itself? Aside of the rest of the cemetery work?
Yeah. So there used to be grant funding through the state, and I'm going back now, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where for historical cemeteries, restoration of historical cemeteries, and which would also include enhancements to veterans memorials. I'm not aware of any immediate grant opportunities that there are available, but likewise with engaging with this firm, they could also, as a natural part of the process, assist with any grant opportunities that may exist, or make recommendations, I should say, that we may pursue. Likewise, we'll be working closely with our veterans agent as well, because I know he has some grant funding to restore the cannon, and we want to capture that. I remember there was a discussion here when we were going through the CIP, and we want to be very, we want to acknowledge that and also be sensitive to that, so make sure that that is utilized and embraced as part of the design of the cemetery. So.
The only thing left was just a comment on, when we do the design, we could look into the entranceway, because we only have one.
Yes.
The other entrance going out towards Fuller Street, and the wall's gonna be repaired also, the wall's in tough shape too.
Mhm.
On the Fuller Street side, that the wall hasn't been touched in probably 100 years. Just want to throw that out there.
I agree.
When you do your design, just look into that, please.
We have photos.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Mr. Souza?
Alpha, Mr. Souza.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse customary things.
Second motion.
And could we have the representative from the?
City Auditor?
Thank you. I'm so sorry. It's been a long day at work, and my mind's not at 100%, so I apologize.
Please have a seat and introduce yourself.
Good evening, Eric Demas, your city auditor.
Is that mic on?
Just pull it up. There you go. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I do have reports the budget office asked me to distribute.
Yeah, that has to do with the,
Council Napolitano?
okay, thank you. First, are you now officially the city auditor?
Today was my first day, yes. And I will disclose, I just learned about this meeting a few hours ago, and I learned about the transfer that you're going to be talking about and that you're discussing tonight less than about an hour ago. So I will do my best.
Well, congratulations.
To answer any of your.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very excited about the
Congratulations.
opportunity.
We do look forward to getting the official acknowledgement from the administration, but good, congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right, just start with the easy one. Safe to assume the vehicles and the meters, these are going to come off the state list, the procurement list?
My understanding is that the vehicles are going to come off the state bid list. I don't have any idea as far as the parking meters are concerned or that program that they're putting in. It's certainly, given the size or the dollar value of the project, if we can't purchase off the state bid list, it will go through Chapter 30B procurement process.
So it hasn't gone out to bid at this time?
I can't say one way or the other. I do not have that information.
Okay. And I know there's nobody here from the administration or from purchasing to clear that up for us. Do you know anything at all about the ADA accessibility, 50,000 for that? What that's about?
I did just inquire about that prior to coming up here, and what I learned was that it was going to be improvements to the sidewalks, specifically installing more handicap ramps.
Okay. Okay. All right, and the ADA, okay, that makes sense. You don't know if that's gone out to bid?
I do not. I apologize. I would be happy to respond back to the committee.
All right. Yeah, my only concern is that if it is a dollar amount without a bid, we really don't have a true value, true figure.
Sure.
And that's only where my concerns are. You know, and that's something that, you know, we've only recently became aware that we've fallen away from asking that question. In the past, it used to be just as strong a question as anything else. And, you know, it's about being able to answer the questions when the residents ask us. All right, well, I know the vehicles would be. I am curious to know what the cost of the meters are going to be, and if it has gone out to bid, and if it hasn't, where the 75,000 is coming from, and if that's been awarded, and also when is the ADA accessibility now the ramps, is that going to be done in-house, or is that also be out for bid?
I was able to figure out what the
What it
purpose
is,
was,
just not- okay.
not the specific details.
All right, if you're able to provide us that information, that'd be great.
I would be happy to.
I think, you know, we'll be able, you know, if we can have that information at our next meeting, when we actually vote on it, that would be very helpful.
Certainly.
Thank you. And
The
again-
only other,
Good.
I just did want to point out, because I heard that you were discussing about potentially revising the amount in regards to the cemetery design. When I took a look at this order that you have in front of you, I did realize that there is a typographical error. The individual line items, those dollar values are correct. However, they total 445,000. They do not total the 450,000.
Okay.
And just wanted to point that out.
Okay, good to know. Okay, thank you, I have no further questions.
Council DeFlorio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, was gonna ask if you could please bring this to our next meeting, the information, and Council Napolitano, also requested it, but make sure that whatever we requested tonight, that, you come up with those figures on our Monday night's meeting when we do vote for it. So, we're supposed to give you a 7-day notice, so I believe we're giving it to you now with the questions.
So for next
Okay.
Monday night's meeting,
Next meeting is next Monday.
I'd be happy to.
Okay,
That's when we'll
so-
be voting on it, so.
That's
we
when
can
we'll be
have all the
voting on it, yes.
information. In case any other councils have other questions, that'd be helpful.
Certainly.
So,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Council
No
Hand, you have
further
any?
questions?
No questions? Okay. Excuse me?
Just one, are you staying around for our meeting?
I was not. I would be happy to.
Okay, just for 5 minutes, just so we can discuss something with you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And just so the public doesn't get the wrong idea, because this is a public meeting, this committee does sign bills and accounts during in the back room. That's what we normally do in a function, as well as take care of individual items. I believe Councilman Hanlon's questions are regarding the bills and accounts that we're signing in the back.
Right,
So
that's it.
we don't want anybody to get the wrong idea that we're having
It
a
has nothing to do
private
with this,
meeting in the
right.
back room. It's not that. It's an extension of what we do in this committee meeting, and that's more for the public's information than anybody else's. Thank you.
I would be happy to.
Okay.
Thank you. That was a good point. Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to motion for favorable action, but I would like to be, prior to, I would like to amend the amount for the design to 180,000.
400 what?
I would like to
180,000.
reduce it from 200,000
Okay.
to 180,000. So the, Ms.
Well, the
Susan was kind
cemetery
enough to give
design.
us the actual figure.
Cemetery.
Yes, the cemetery design.
Cemetery.
Second that motion.
All in
It would be
favor?
a total of 425,000. Because the order was supposed to be 445, right here it
Correct.
says it's
Right.
450.
Correct.
So the total order will be
25.
425,000.
25,000.
Is that correct?
Okay. John, did you second that?
Yes.
Yes, second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Okay, ayes have it.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Well,
Actually,
I'm sorry.
motion to reconvene in the back room.
Reconvene in the back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's really whatever. And that's one of the things that I'm trying, for this first session of it, we need to emphasize that the learning stream components, it does operate differently than the education system. And I think that some of us have just been, the trip is just to make it sound different than what it's intended to be. And there is a time, yeah. I wouldn't get any happy. Just shut up, it's fine. So, yeah, but this is coming before us, we usually have, we already know it's all about food. And then it became that gap. What was the difference in the job can only be done for a decade. What happens to those things that because something is not that good, but that's something that's fine, you can stay certified. Not just better than just not that money. These were all the things that started coming up once the question came up because we had so why is that? We all work together. To try to maintain these, I mean, I'm not lecturing you this. I'm speaking for myself. You know, for us to get things done in the city, we have to truly operate the city.
That's what the question was.
And, you know, and the fact that you just went on there, this, that's how we used to operate. Because it was all, almost, we used to say, you fill a bucket of water, $1 at a time. Right. We blow out a budget, $1 at a time. Right. And, you know, I get so sick of that. Well, you know, it's only what we say, $20 grand. In the greater scheme of things, it's less than one. Well, you know what? That's fine, but you still going to get and, you know, so that's, you know, and I could tell them the way it is. No, we don't need $20 grand. So that's cool. That makes it